Have you ever felt like you're losing money because of problems with time tracking? Well, then this video is just for you. Hi, I'm Mike, Mr. Process Mahoney, and in this video I'm going to explain why time tracking nightmares are another reason to avoid charging an hourly rate for your services. So how did I ever function without time tracking is a question everyone asks. If you're still charging hourly for your services, you no doubt understand that you must use time tracking to be sure you get paid for every single bit of work that you do. The question becomes how to do time tracking. For many freelancers, there was a point in time where keeping track of time was easy. They didn't have lots of work, so time tracking happened automatically. But as work started to pick up, they began using timers or apps to keep track of time. But then something changes. The work begins to pile up and the time tracking becomes a nightmare. Clients are demanding more and more detailed reports. You're spending hours every week just creating reports, and you're losing money because you're not billing for all the time you spent creating the report. Time tracking is a necessary evil when charging by the hour, but it doesn't have to be a nightmare. Now, there are many different time tracking software programs out there. Some are more user-friendly than others, but they all have one thing in common. They're a nightmare to use. The biggest problem with time tracking software is that it's difficult because it's designed to track time, not to manage projects. As a result, you end up with a lot of data that is very difficult to decipher. You might see that you spent 2 hours on a project, but you have no idea what you actually accomplished in that time. Was it productive work, or were you just fiddling around trying to figure out how to use the software? Time tracking software is also very intrusive. You have to start and stop the timer for every task, which quickly becomes annoying. And if you forget to start the timer, you risk losing track of time and not getting paid for your work. Bottom line is time tracking software is a necessary evil when billing by the hour. Now, I've been using time tracking software for years, and I've never found one that I really like. I've tried many different programs, but they all have the same flaws. The biggest problem is that it's very difficult to make sense of the data. I can see how much time I've spent on a project, but I can't see what I accomplished in that time. I also find that it's very intrusive because, again, I have to start and stop the timer for every task. That becomes annoying. If I forget to start the timer, I risk losing track of time and not getting paid for my work. Analyzing the data to make sense of it reveals the difficulties that are present. It requires me to put in a lot of effort to figure out what I actually accomplished in the time I spent on a project. Now, time tracking is definitely a nightmare, but it also has benefits. The biggest benefit is that it forces you to become more efficient with your time. When you know that you're being timed, you're less likely to waste time on tasks that aren't productive. Time tracking can also help you identify areas where you need to improve your efficiency. If you find that you're spending a lot of time on a task that should only take a few minutes, you know that you need to find a way to be more efficient. Now, another benefit of time tracking is that it provides documentation of the work that you've done. This can be helpful if a client ever disputes your bill. You can show them the detailed reports of the time you spent working on their project. Despite its many flaws, time tracking is a necessary evil when billing by the hour. It's not perfect, but it can be helpful if used correctly. Now, if you're going to use time tracking software, there are a few things you can do to make the most out of it. First, don't try to use it to track every single task you do. This will quickly become overwhelming and won't be helpful. Instead, only track the major tasks that you do for a project. For example, if you're working on a website design, you might track the time you spend on designing the homepage, creating the navigation, designing the inner pages, etc. But you don't need to track the time you spend on things like checking your email or taking a break. Now, another tip is to use the data from your time tracking to improve your efficiency. If you find that you're spending a lot of time on a task that should only take a few minutes, figure out why and try to find a way to be more efficient. Time tracking software can be very helpful if used correctly. By following these tips, you can make the most out of your time tracking software and avoid its many flaws. Now, if you got value out of this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when new videos come out from top-tier coaching services.